All right, septic systems. Not the most glamorous topic, but definitely something that homeowners need to pay attention to,
Right.
especially if they want to avoid some seriously unpleasant and expensive problems. So today, we're diving deep into Septifix.
Okay.
This product's been getting a lot of buzz,
It has.
claiming to be like a miracle solution for all
Yes.
your septic woes.
Uh-huh.
And, a lot of people are asking, is it really all it's cracked up to be?
Yeah.
Or is it just, clever marketing?
Right.
That's what we're here to find out. We've got a whole pile of information here, customer reviews, marketing materials, even some independent research
right.
to help us get to the bottom of this.
Yeah, so what immediately jumps out about Septifix is their approach. It's a little different from, the traditional liquid or powder treatments.
yeah.
Yeah, this comes in tablet form,
Interesting.
and it uses this combination of, get this, 14 strains of aerobic bacteria.
14, like a whole party happening down there.
Uh-huh, right? And then it also has this oxygen-releasing component.
Okay, now I have to ask, what's so special about these aerobic bacteria? And how do they even, function in a septic tank? It's not exactly the most oxygen-rich environment, right?
That's a really great question. And
Yeah.
it really gets to the heart of what Septifix is claiming here. See, aerobic bacteria, they need oxygen to survive.
Right.
They're like little waste-eating machines.
Okay.
But they need that oxygen to power their work.
Got it.
So Septifix is saying that their tablets release oxygen as they dissolve.
Oh, I see.
So they're creating this oxygen-rich environment down there for the bacteria to actually do their job.
So they're not just masking the smell, they're actually going after the source of the problem?
Yeah, exactly. They're tackling the root cause.
That's huge.
Because, let's face it, nobody wants to be downwind of a failing septic system.
Oh, tell me about it. That's a nightmare scenario.
For real. And it's important to understand what failing actually means in this context.
Yeah.
We're talking about slow drains. You have those persistent odors.
Mm.
And in the worst cases, even sewage backups.
Nobody wants that.
No, it's a sign that your system isn't breaking down waste effectively.
So Septifix is claiming their bacteria are going to munch through that sludge, reduce the odors, and prevent those clogs. But how does this method, compare to the traditional chemical treatments?
Yeah, that's a key question. And Septifix is really positioning themselves as this eco-friendly alternative
Right.
to those sometimes harsh chemicals.
And a lot of people are drawn to that.
Oh yeah, that idea of a more natural solution is really appealing.
Yeah.
Septifix is really pushing that environmentally friendly, non-toxic message.
And it makes sense. People are concerned about the impact these things have, not just on their homes, but on the environment as a whole.
Exactly.
So unpack that a little bit. What are some of the potential downsides of using those traditional chemical treatments?
Well, some of those traditional treatments, they contain ingredients that can be pretty harsh. Not just on the waste they're breaking down, but potentially on the environment too.
Ah, I see.
So while they might clear up a clog or get rid of the smell for a bit, they could be doing damage in the process.
Yeah.
Some of those chemicals can end up in the groundwater,
Right.
local waterways,
Uh-huh.
which isn't good for the ecosystem.
No, definitely not. So Septifix, with its natural bacteria and that oxygen-releasing formula, it seems like they're trying to avoid those negative consequences.
Exactly. It's biodegradable and, less likely to cause those issues.
So a win for you, a win for the environment. But how do those claims actually hold up when you look at the science behind Septifix? Does it actually deliver what it promises?
Well, the science of using bacteria to break down waste is well established. I mean, these little guys have been doing this job for ages. They're
Yeah.
nature's cleanup crew, right?
Right.
The key thing with Septifix is the specific strains they use and their ability to create that oxygen-rich environment in the tank.
So the science seems solid. But what about, real-world results? What are actual Septifix users saying?
That's where things get really interesting. We dug into those reviews, and there's a lot of positive feedback out there. People are raving about it.
Really?
Oh, yeah. They talk about their rapid odor elimination,
Okay.
noticeable improvements in their septic systems, and a lot of them just mention the peace of mind
Uh-huh.
of knowing they're using a natural solution.
Yeah, peace of mind is huge,
Yeah.
especially when you consider the potential costs associated with a malfunctioning septic system.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to deal with that hassle and expense.
No, but, while those positive reviews are encouraging, it's important to keep in mind that everybody's experience is going to be a little different, right?
Right. What works for one person might not work for another.
Mm-hmm.
And that brings up a good point. How does Septifix stack up against the other options on the market?
Right. the natural ones and the chemical ones.
Exactly. There are a lot of different septic tank treatments out there.
Yeah, and they all have their pros and cons, right?
Right. Some are specifically for odor control or sludge reduction, while others promise to be a cure-all.
So how does Septifix stand out in this crowded market? What makes it different?
Well, their biggest selling point is the combination of effectiveness and eco-friendliness.
Okay.
They're saying you don't have to choose one or the other.
You can have both.
Exactly.
That's a powerful message for a lot of people, especially
Huh.
those environmentally conscious consumers.
Right.
But how does the cost compare to these other options?
Well, they have a few different package options. You've got your 6-month supply, 12-month supply, and if you're really committed, you can go for the 18-month supply.
Wow.
And like with most things, the larger the package you buy, the bigger the discount.
So they're incentivizing those bulk purchases?
Yeah, it's a classic marketing tactic. But before we get too caught up in the pricing and the packaging, let's go back to one of their key claims, that it's actually superior to those traditional chemical treatments.
Okay, because a lot of people are wary of those harsh chemicals for good reason. So we need to really look into that and see if this claim holds up. What are the downsides of chemical treatments? And does Septifix genuinely offer a safer and more effective alternative?
All right, those are some big questions.
Big questions that we're going to tackle head on as we continue this deep dive. We'll be breaking down those claims, comparing Septifix to its competitors, and really getting into the science behind it all.
It's all about helping you make an informed decision.
Exactly.
So let's talk about those chemical treatments for a minute. You know, they've been the go-to solution for septic problems for a long time.
Yeah, decades.
And they can be effective, especially if you need a quick fix.
Right?
But there are some downsides, things we need to consider.
Okay, let's hear it. What kind of drawbacks are we talking about?
Well, some of those chemicals can be pretty harsh.
Okay.
Not only on the waste they're supposed to break down, but potentially on the environment too.
So they might clear up a clog, but they could be doing damage in the process.
That's right. Some of those chemicals can actually end up in the groundwater
Oh, wow.
or in local waterways.
That's not good.
No, not good at all.
Yeah.
Not for the ecosystem.
So that makes the whole eco-friendly approach of Septifix even more appealing. But the question is it as effective as those chemical treatments?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is. Can a natural solution really pack the same punch?
Well, it's not a simple yes or no answer.
Right.
It really depends on what the specific problem is that you're dealing with
Okay.
and how bad it is. For instance, if you've got a major clog,
Yeah,
sometimes a chemical treatment might be the fastest way to clear it.
I can see that.
But if you're just thinking about ongoing maintenance
Uh-huh.
or odor control,
Yeah.
a natural solution like Septifix might actually be a better strategy in the long run.
So it's all about finding the right tool for the job, right?
Exactly. And that's where doing a little research,
Yeah.
maybe even talking to a professional can be really helpful.
Good point.
They can take a look at your system, figure out what's going on, and help you make the best decision.
That's great advice. So let's get back to some of the specific claims that Septifix is making. They say it can eliminate odors in just 3 to 5 days. That's pretty impressive.
It is.
How do they back that up?
Again, it all comes down to those aerobic bacteria. They're designed to target and break down that organic matter that's causing those smells.
So instead of just covering up the odor, they're actually getting rid of the source.
Exactly. It's like pulling out a weed by the roots instead of just mowing over the top.
Love that analogy. And those positive reviews we talked about earlier seem to support that claim, right? People are saying they see a difference in odor levels pretty quickly.
That's right, within a few days.
That's encouraging. Now, what about sludge reduction? Septifix says it can significantly reduce that buildup of sludge in your tank. How does that work?
It's all about those bacteria again.
Those little guys are busy.
They are. They're not just getting rid of the smells. They're also working on breaking down that solid waste that accumulates in your tank, that sludge.
So it's like having a tiny army of garbage disposals working 24/7 down there.
Ha! That's a great way to put it. And less sludge means a healthier system, one that's going to work more efficiently, which can mean fewer problems down the line.
So potentially fewer repairs, and your septic system could last longer.
Right.
That sounds like a good investment.
It could be.
But how does that sludge reduction compare to what you might see with other treatments?
That's a good question.
Is there like a standard measurement or something?
Well, that's where things get a little tricky. There isn't really a standardized measurement across the board.
Oh, okay.
So it's tough to make direct comparisons.
So it's more about just paying attention to how your system is doing overall.
Exactly. If you notice that it's running better and those signs of trouble are going away,
Yeah.
That's a pretty good sign that the treatment is doing its job.
Makes sense. Now, Septifix really emphasizes the whole environmentally friendly aspect. We touched on it earlier, but I think it's worth digging a little deeper. Why is that so important?
Absolutely. As we become more aware of the choices we make
Yep.
and the impact those choices have,
Yeah.
it's natural to want to look for more sustainable solutions.
In all areas of our lives.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Septic systems are no exception. I mean, think about it. What we flush down the toilet doesn't just disappear.
Right.
It all has to go somewhere. It has to be treated,
Yeah.
and eventually it's released back into the environment.
So using an eco-friendly treatment like Septifix could actually help to create a healthier ecosystem overall.
Precisely. It's about thinking beyond our own homes and looking at the bigger picture.
I like that. Now, we talked about the science, the environmental benefits, but let's get down to brass tacks. How easy is this stuff to use?
Well, that's one of the things Septifix really pushes.
Yeah.
How simple it is to use. You just drop a tablet in the toilet once a month and you're done.
Okay, that's pretty easy. But what if you've already got a problem, like a slow drain or something?
They recommend starting with a little higher dose in those cases.
Okay.
3 tablets at first, and then you can go back to the regular monthly dose.
So you can use it as a treatment or as a preventative measure.
That's right. And they also talk a lot about safety. They say it's non-toxic,
Okay.
safe for all septic systems, even those with different kinds of plumbing.
So no worries about damaging your pipes or anything like that?
That's what they claim.
Mm.
Of course, like with any product, you always want to read the instructions.
Right, of course.
And err on the side of caution.
Good advice. Now, this is something that's probably on a lot of people's minds. Can Septifix actually fix a failing septic system? Is it a miracle cure, or is it more of a maintenance tool?
That's a really important distinction.
It is.
And we need to be realistic about what to expect. Septifix can definitely help improve a system that's struggling.
Okay.
Those bacteria can do a lot to break down the waste and reduce sludge. So it can give a failing system a boost.
Like a shot in the arm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's not magic.
Yeah.
If you've got a serious structural problem, like a crack in your tank or a damaged drain field,
Yeah.
Septifix isn't going to fix that.
Right. Sometimes you just need a plumber.
Exactly. So it's important to know the difference between maintenance and repair.
Yeah. Good point.
Septifix can help maintain a healthy system, or maybe even give a struggling system a fighting chance,
Uh-huh.
but it's not going to replace a professional when you really need one.
That's an important point to remember. Now, I think it's time to address some of the common concerns people might have about Septifix.
Sounds good. What are people wondering about?
Well, I'm sure some people are thinking about those bacteria. What happens if you introduce all these new bacteria into your septic system? Is there any risk of disrupting the natural balance down there?
That's a very valid question,
It is.
and it's something to think about. Septifix claims that the bacteria they use are naturally occurring and beneficial, and that they're designed to work with the bacteria that are already in your system.
So it's not like some kind of alien invasion situation where they're going to take over and mess everything up?
No, nothing like that.
Okay, good.
It's more like they're giving a helping hand to the existing cleanup crew.
That makes sense. Another thing that people are probably wondering about is compatibility. Septifix says it's safe for all septic systems. Are there any exceptions to that?
They do say that it's compatible with most plumbing materials and most types of septic tanks.
It's okay.
But it's always smart to double check if you're not sure.
Yeah,
Reach out to Septifix directly or talk to a plumber.
good advice. Now, what about extreme weather? We're hearing so much about extreme heat, extreme cold these days.
Yeah.
Can that affect how well Septifix works?
That's a big concern for a lot of people, especially with the wild weather patterns we've been having. Septifix says their tablets are designed to handle those extremes,
Okay.
as long as you store them properly.
So keep them in a cool, dry place.
Exactly. And they should be good to go no matter what Mother Nature throws at you.
That's good to know. You know, we've talked a lot about the practical stuff and the environmental aspects. But let's not forget about the emotional side of this. Septic problems can be super stressful.
Oh, yeah. Nobody wants to deal with raw sewage backing up into their home.
That's like a nightmare. Just the thought of it is enough to keep you up at night.
And even the constant worry, the what if.
It can really weigh on you. So finding a solution that actually works and gives you peace of mind, that's priceless.
Absolutely. And that's where a product like Septifix, with its claims of being natural and effective and easy to use, it can really make a difference.
Yeah, that peace of mind might be worth the cost for a lot of people.
I can definitely see that. Just knowing, You're doing everything you can to keep your system running smoothly.
Taking those preventative measures.
Right. It can make a huge difference.
It can. Now, we've covered a lot of ground here, but before we jump to conclusions, I think it's important to emphasize the importance of doing your own research.
Yes.
And thinking critically about all this information.
Absolutely. We've given you a lot to consider, but at the end of the day, the decision of whether or not to try Septifix is up to you.
It's a personal choice.
Exactly. What works for one person might not work for another. Every septic system is different.
Right, different size tanks, different types of soil, different usage patterns.
Exactly. So there are a lot of factors to take into account.
It's not one size fits all.
Nope. So weigh the pros and cons, think about your specific situation, and maybe even talk to a professional.
Good advice. Now, I want to shift gears a bit and talk about the bigger picture here. Septifix is just one product in a whole market of natural septic tank treatments.
Right.
What's driving this trend, and what does it mean for the future of septic system maintenance?
That's a really interesting question.
It is.
And it speaks to a larger shift we're seeing in how people are thinking about their choices.
Okay.
People are becoming more and more aware of the impact they have on the environment,
Right.
and they're actively looking for ways to be more sustainable.
In all areas of their lives.
Exactly. And septic systems are no exception. People are realizing that what they do in their own homes has consequences.
It does.
It affects the world around them.
So this growing interest in natural septic tank treatments, it's a good sign, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It shows that people are starting to take responsibility
Yeah.
for their environmental footprint, and they're looking for ways to make a difference.
And that shift in consumer demand, it's driving innovation.
It is.
We're seeing all these companies exploring new ingredients, new formulations, new approaches to septic system maintenance.
So it's a win-win situation.
It is.
Good for the environment, good for consumers who are looking for safer options.
Absolutely. Now, let's zoom out even further and think about the role of septic systems in society.
Okay.
We often take them for granted,
We do.
but they're essential
They are.
for wastewater treatment and for public health.
It's true. We don't always think about where our waste goes after we flush, but it's a crucial part of our infrastructure.
It really is.
Mm.
And keeping those systems healthy is so important for protecting our environment and making sure we have a safe and clean place to live.
So whether you choose to use Septifix or some other method, the important thing is to be proactive about maintenance, right?
Absolutely. Regular maintenance can help you avoid those expensive repairs.
Yeah, nobody wants those.
No. And it can extend the life of your system
Okay.
and help protect our shared environment.
A win for everyone. Now, before we move on, I just want to touch on something I know a lot of people are curious about. Those DIY septic tank treatments, you know, the recipes you see online?
Ah, yes, the internet. A source of both wisdom and, well, not so wisdom.
Exactly. So what's the deal with those DIY concoctions? Are they a good alternative to commercial products like Septifix?
I would say approach those with caution.
Okay.
Some might be harmless, maybe even helpful,
Yeah.
but others could actually cause damage to your system
Oh, no.
or make the problem worse. So it's best to stick with products that have been proven to work
Right.
or talk to a professional.
Good advice. You know, while we're on the topic of bacteria, it's interesting to think about how we often view them as the enemy.
Yeah,
But the truth is, we couldn't live without them.
we couldn't. They play a huge role in so many things, from digestion to decomposition to the health of our planet.
And septic systems are a great example of how bacteria can be beneficial.
Absolutely. They're the unsung heroes of wastewater treatment, breaking down all that waste and keeping things clean.
So next time you flush, take a moment to thank those little bacteria for all their hard work. Now let's bring it back to Septifix. We've talked about the science, the claims, the potential benefits, the environmental impact. But at the end of the day, the decision of whether or not to use Septifix, it's a personal one.
It is. There's no right or wrong answer.
It comes down to your needs, your preferences, your budget.
And your comfort level with trying something new.
Exactly. Some people are more adventurous. Some people like to stick with what they know.
And that's okay. The important thing is to make an informed choice.
One that's right for you.
Now, as we wrap up this deep dive into Septifix, I want to leave you with a final thought.
I'm all ears.
We've talked a lot about the technical side of things,
We have.
but it's important to remember that these systems are connected to something much bigger,
What's that?
the health of our planet.
That's a powerful way to put it. It's easy to get caught up in our own lives, but our actions have consequences.
They do. They affect the world around us.
So whether you're choosing a septic tank treatment, buying a new car, or just going about your day.
Yeah.
Take a moment to think about the impact of your choices.
On the environment.
Exactly.
We're all connected.
We
Or
are.
even small changes can make a big difference.
Like choosing a more sustainable septic tank treatment.
Exactly. Or being mindful of how much water you use.
Every little bit helps.
It does. Well, we've reached the bottom of this Septifix deep dive. Hopefully you're feeling a lot more informed
I know I am.
and maybe even a little bit empowered to make the best decision for your septic system.
I think so too.
Remember, knowledge is power. The more you understand about your system and the options you have,
Yeah.
the better equipped you'll be to keep it healthy and working properly.
And a healthy septic system means a happy home and a healthy planet.
Exactly. So go forth and conquer those septic tank challenges.
Armed with all this new knowledge.
And remember, sometimes the deepest dive starts with a simple flush.
Huh. Thanks for joining us on this Septifix adventure. Until next time, happy flushing. It really is. Finding that balance, it can be tough.
It can, but even small changes can add up. And, with septic systems, there's actually a lot we can do to be more mindful.
Okay, like what? Give me some examples.
Well, think about what you're putting down those drains.
Okay.
Things like harsh chemicals,
Right.
grease, even those flushable whites.
Oh, yeah, those are notorious.
They can really mess things up, not just in your pipes, but in the whole system.
So they can actually cause problems down the line at the treatment plant.
They can. And ultimately, it all impacts the environment.
So it sounds like just being a little more aware of what we're flushing can really make a difference.
It really can. It's all about understanding that our actions have consequences.
Huh.
Even when we're talking about something like, a septic system.
It's easy to forget about that. Out of sight, out of mind, right?
Right.
We flush and it magically disappears. But it's a whole process.
It is. And when you think about all the waste these systems handle every single day,
Yeah.
it's actually pretty amazing.
It's a marvel of engineering.
It is. It's one of those things we take for granted,
Until it stops working.
Exactly.
Well, I think this deep dive has definitely opened my eyes to a whole new world. Hopefully our listeners are feeling the same way.
I hope so too.
We've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
The science, the claims, the pros, the cons, the environmental impact.
It's all about giving people the information they need
Exactly.
to make the best decision for their situation.
Because ultimately, whether or not to use Septifix, that's a personal choice.
It is. There's no right or wrong answer here.
It's all about weighing those options, thinking about your own needs, your budget.
Right. And your own comfort level. Some people are happy to try new things.
Yeah.
Others prefer to stick with what they know.
And that's okay.
It is. As long as we're all making informed decisions,
And recognizing that we all have a responsibility to protect the environment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Even when it comes to something like a septic system.
Well said. So as we flush away the last of this deep dive, any final words of wisdom for our listeners?
Just keep learning. Ask questions. Don't be afraid to do your own research. And make choices that are good for your home and good for the planet.
Love it. Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, folks, we've reached the end of our Septifix journey. Hopefully you're feeling a lot more knowledgeable and a lot less intimidated by the whole septic system thing.
But septic systems don't have to be scary.
Not at all, especially when you've got the right information. So, as we always say, sometimes the deepest dive starts with a simple flush. Thanks for joining us on the Septifix adventure, and until next time, happy flushing.